Welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm your host, Anna Gray. The best thing about being a nurse and entrepreneur over the last 25 years are the relationships I've developed and the people I've met. As a legal nurse consultant, I wanted you to hear from those amazing people in the legal and healthcare communities. I wanted you to hear who they are and to celebrate them with me. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered. Let's dive into the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I am really excited to talk to my guest here today, Jameisha. Jameisha, first, thank you for being here. And I'm even more excited because Jameisha came as a recommendation for me to chat with. So I think that this is the first time that it wasn't me reaching out to people. I had asked a few people that I know, love, and trust to see who's out there that I could have a great conversation with. And Jameisha came well recommended. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know you, Jameisha. Thank you for being here.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for having me here. I'm really enjoying the things that I'm able to do and the connections that I'm making, in the legal space. I'm using my nursing expertise. So I'm really probably more excited than you to
Oh,
be,
no.
I'm
Thank
just all
you.
about learning and making connections and,
Yeah.
growing each day and
Yeah.
just helping other people when I can. I'm really loving the space that I'm in, and I'm just looking forward to everything that's ahead.
Great. Oh, thank you. Okay. So, Jameisha, can you tell us where in the world you're coming from? I always like to start off that question because I'm always curious on where we're all coming from.
Well, right now, I'm coming from Baltimore, Maryland. I live right outside of Baltimore City and East Baltimore County, but I come by way of West Virginia. So I'm a country girl at heart,
Okay. Uh-huh.
um, from Southern West Virginia, and
Uh-huh.
been here in Maryland since I was about 9, 10, so
Oh,
about
okay.
30 plus years. And
Yeah.
this is where I met my sweetheart. We got married, had our kids, and this is where life has been really good to me. And so that's where I
Uh-huh.
am now. And I'm working as a nurse here. I went to college here and everything. So Baltimore's my.
Okay. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about where you went to school. What that experience was like. Did you go straight into nursing or?
Well, I had a little bit of a different path. So when I graduated from high school, I knew that I wanted to be medical. Both of my grandmothers were pretty much nurses. So I know that I wanted to do that. It was a toss up between that and being a lawyer, but I wasn't really sure. But when I graduated high school, because I really couldn't make up my mind, I started a medical assistant program. It was like a little bit over 15 months to get my
Mhm.
certification. And I really, every time I think back to that foundation, I really feel like it set me up to be really successful as a nurse in order to see what all was out there regarding different specialties, working with patients with different backgrounds and different age groups and everything like that. So I started out as a medical assistant, and I
Mhm.
did that for a while, being a young mom and wife. I did it for a little bit. And then when my first baby started preschool, I've decided, my husband, I'm like, hey, I want to go back to school too. So
Mhm.
that's when I enrolled in Baltimore City Community College and did all my prereqs there for 2 years straight. And then I enrolled into the BSN program at Coppin State University, which is a very prestigious school here in Maryland. And a lot of
Mhm.
top nurses come from Coppin State University. So that's kind
Mhm.
of where I got my landing and my foundation outside
Mhm.
of my grandmother's, because I feel like I've been in nursing all my life.
Right. Hearing their stories, did they share their stories a lot when you were young?
Yeah, and taking care of loved ones at home.
Oh,
As
yeah.
early as 5 or 6 years old, my father's mom, she took care of her. She was the youngest of 15, and she took care of her sister who raised her, who had Alzheimer's. So that was my first experience with geriatrics, because we spent a lot of time with our grandparents, because our mom and dad, we lived very close. We could just like throw a rock and be at
Mhm.
grandma and grandpa's house. So
Mhm.
being able to have that experience early on, growing up also to the early portion of my life, I was able to see my great grandparents a lot, my father's grandparents and my mom's mother. And then my mom's mother, she actually took care of another loved one at home that had Alzheimer's and dementia for over
Mm.
10 years. So
Wow.
by the time I started spending more time with my maternal grandmother, Hazel, I had already made my mind up that nursing was probably where I was going to go, and I was about
Yeah.
12 or 13.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. You had a great experience around that, but great motivation, I'm sure, inspiration, motivation, all of those things. So then when you went to MA school, did you started working right away? Where did you start working, in what kind of facility?
So when I first started working, I was so excited because it was like family medicine, like a multi-purpose community center, Baltimore Medical Systems here at that time. So we had family medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics, obstetrics, gynecology. So literally, as a medical assistant, I got to work with providers in all of those backgrounds and have a lot of hands-on
Mhm.
with those particular specialties, which kind of I really feel like laid that initial foundation that I would need later on as a nurse. Even though nursing is, of course, more has more layers to it. That
Mhm.
exposure and those interactions with patients and learning how to build rapport and relationships with providers was very instrumental in many of those relationships I still have 20
Mm.
plus years
Mhm.
today because of that,
Mhm.
being able to cultivate and have that background.
Mhm. Mhm. So you found that that was also obviously helpful when you went to nursing school as well, right? I'm guessing that it became, without the word easier, but it was probably easier for you to get through nursing school, knowing how to, communicate with all types of people and collaborate. Uh, I know that that was the case for me in a different scenario. I was a surgical tech in the operating room before I went to nursing school. So I felt like that gave me a little bit of leeway when it came to nursing school. I knew how to handle physicians and nurses and knew really the flow. So I'm guessing that that was probably the case for you as well, right?
Absolutely, that will be pretty precise. Just being able to navigate difficult situations, challenging scenarios, working with
Mm,
people from all age groups, from infants, brand new babies, to
mhm,
the geriatric patients in the nursing homes. You know, um, by the time I got to college sophomore year, we started our clinical sophomore year hands on in the
mhm.
field. So by the time I got to that point, I felt like, okay, my
Yeah,
people, the fear of people I did not have,
yeah,
but the challenge was taking what I was learning as a nurse and applying it appropriately in those situations. That's really what I had to focus on. But having
right.
that prior experience made that a little easier.
Yeah, right, right. Okay, so going through nursing school, did you already have a job lined up once you were done? Did you already know what specialty you wanted to go down, or were you to give me a little bit of your background on how that panned out once you finished school,
So
or the lead up to it?
I have a really funny story about that. But as I was going through my college career and eventually doing my clinicals, I wasn't quite sold on exactly what I was going to do. I had an idea. I knew I wanted to work with the elderly population. I knew that. But I wasn't exactly sure what it would look like. So as time went on and I was nearing the end of school, once I started my first clinicals in the skilled nursing facility, I knew that that was one place I wanted to work, primarily because I grew up with my grandparents. So being around the elderly, was something that I enjoyed. And so even though they were sick, I really wanted to be in that space to probably provide comfort. So I knew that that was one avenue. But as I was growing up, I want to say around those early, maybe like 10 to 13, my mother's mom was taking care of a family member that had kidney disease. One of my uncles, her brother, actually came to stay with my grandmother and my grandfather at their home as he needed dialysis. So, of course, being a younger person, I did not understand all of the intricate details of it, but I knew that he was very sick, and my grandmother would let me like help do things and try to explain little things to me, like I was her little nurse. And
Hmm.
that was where my interest was. So as school was ending, I knew that that was kind of where I wanted to go. I kind of solidified, yeah, I'm probably going to do kidney care and geriatrics.
Hmm. And is that exactly what you ended up doing?
That's exactly what I ended up doing. But it was so
Uh-huh.
funny because as a new grad, this was like 15 years ago. So as a new grad, I'm excited. I'm a nurse graduate. I didn't take my boards until August. We graduated in May and
Mhm.
took my boards in August. So I'm calling around looking for a job. And I got to the last place that I called, and it was a dialysis company. And I talked to the HR director, and she said, "Honey, you don't have any experience. We only take
Mm.
experienced people here." And I said, "Ma'am, can I say something?" And she was like, "Sure." And I said, "Look, I am a new nurse and I want to work and I want to help people. And if nobody gives me a chance, how in the world am I going to do this? I just need a chance." I said, "I need somebody to give me a chance
Mhm.
so I can make a difference. That's it." And she said, she got quiet and she said, "You know what? With that kind of conviction, how can I not?"
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
set me up for an interview. And I was the first new grad that this organization hired to work in the acute dialysis setting. Prior to me, they did not hire new grads. They only wanted experienced RNs.
Mhm.
Maybe the nurses had dialysis experience, maybe they didn't, but they at least had to be experienced RNs. But I was the first new grad that they hired. And then after I successfully completed my training and I did really well, I really liked my employer and my team. I did really well. They opened the floodgates up and let more new grads in. And at one point, I think after my first year, it was like up to maybe like 10 plus new grads in the program. So
Oh,
I
wow.
really, I'm really so glad that I had it in my heart to do the kidney care and I stuck with it because it's been one of the most rewarding things that I think I could have done as a nurse.
Mhm.
Um, I've done so many things in kidney care and I have no regrets
Mm.
about it. I've loved everything that I've done, even
Mhm.
if I didn't do it for a long time. Just the experience, the
Mhm.
opportunities, the people that I've helped, the people that have helped me, the patients that I've been able to touch and their families. It's
Yeah.
just been something that I carry with me every day.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like it was a calling for you, and the fact that they took a chance on you. I know that when I was hiring people, if someone would have said that, I think that people are too afraid to speak up and say what I really really want this job, and the reasons why are not because of money. I want to make a difference, and I commend the hiring nurse or whoever that the hiring person to take a chance on you, and then you left a legacy clearly. Um, it just shows that you're passionate about what you do, and it's I can still hear it in your voice. So it's really really amazing to hear that. I love that story.
If I think too much about it, it gets me teary eyed because I remember people telling me, "Don't do that. Don't go and you need to go into med surge. You're not going to learn anything. You're not going to get what you
Yeah,
need going there. You're not going to get your skills."
right.
And I have to beg to differ. And if anybody works with me, they'll tell you the critical thinking is sharp, the expertise is sharp, my assessment skills are top notch. And if my goal is just to let anybody know, maybe even a new nurse is listening, if you want to do something bad enough and you really, really want to learn, don't rob yourself of that experience because others may not have the same idea in mind. Get the
Mhm.
experience. That's the joy of being a nurse. We can
Mhm.
learn, we can move on, we can grow. We don't have to be boxed in. But I'm very, very, very glad and thankful that I did not listen because the rewards that I received from going into a specialty that I knew in my heart I wanted to pursue, the blessings have been endless. And so
Yeah.
I just want to tell anybody that's listening,
Yeah.
whatever, it may not be kidney care, but as a nurse, just go for it. That
Yeah.
we work hard, just go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to that same um pushback on, in the beginning, you're not working med surge, you should work med surge. And I bucked the system as well. I never worked on the floor. I was in the operating room and I went straight to the operating room. And to this day, 25 years later, 20, more than that, it's blessed me in so many ways because I followed my gut and I didn't follow what everybody said that I should be doing, right? That everybody said that you should be doing it a certain way, but clearly your passion and compassion led you down that path and you followed it, and you're still enjoying the decision that you made. And I love the fact that you shared that advice to those that are maybe on the fence or thinking about what they should be doing versus what they want to do. And if the opportunity arises, then take it or make it yourself. I mean, clearly that's exactly what you did. You made it yourself. So good for you.
Sometimes we're not always going to be given the opportunity. We have to look
Right.
for the space. We have to look for the crevice and sometimes create that lane for ourselves. It's not always going to drop in our laps. It's not always going to be
Yeah.
someone that looks at us and tells us, hey, she deserves this or he deserves that. Let's do this. It doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you had to be tenacious and you had to be
Mhm.
driven and determined long past when the motivation wears off to continue to
Mhm.
forge ahead. And I really thank my parents and my grandparents for that,
Yeah.
for instilling that in me because that's something. I was a timid child in a lot of
Mm.
ways, very
Mhm.
shy, very soft
Mhm.
spoken, but I still had that little edge. And
Right.
that edge has allowed me to really pursue the things that are true to my heart. And I'm just really happy that I get to help people in more ways, maybe some that are not as conventional as others, but in my own special way, just being able to make an impact, not
Yeah.
only to patients and their families, but supporting other nurses and
Yeah.
being available to my peers and
Right.
other clinicians in a way that we can strengthen each other. That's really
Right.
where I get my reward as well.
Right, right. Yeah. We'll dive into that a little bit more later, but it's a really good point. It makes you who you are, and we all have different stories, we all have different specialties, we all have different skills, and working together only makes the community, the nursing community and our patient care even more exceptional. We're not There are so many different variations of nursing and layers of nursing that we cannot cover ourselves. And so your skills and your knowledge and your experience is unique to you, and that you, eh, being the person that you are, wanting to share also makes you unique. So, did you stay in kidney care, or did you? What is your journey like over the last 20 years? Before we get into the legal nurse side of this, what did that look like for you as far as
So
specialty goes?
I've been in healthcare since 2000,
Mhm.
2001.
Mhm.
I became a nurse in 2009.
Mhm.
So I've been a nephrology nurse since 2009. My background encompasses acute care, inpatient hemodialysis, outpatient hemodialysis, home programs. I've been a staff nurse, a charge nurse, a clinic manager, a facility administrator. I've been a divisional educator, um, preceptor,
Yeah.
trainer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just love it. And that's
Yeah.
what draws me to kidney care, because the things that I've been able to do with my patients and their families, but also to strengthen the profession,
Yeah.
as far as nursing, but
Mhm.
also the specialty of
Mhm.
nephrology. Nephrology is something that is really underrated in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. When people think of dialysis, they're like, "Oh, you're just a dialysis nurse." I had somebody tell me that before. And I said, "No, I'm a nephrology nurse.
Yeah.
Dialysis is treatment. It is a life-saving treatment, but I know how to do several of those life-saving treatments." And I
Yeah.
was explaining the difference to that individual, and he was like, "Wow, I just didn't know." And so
Yeah.
one thing that I like to do is spread awareness about the importance of kidney care overall, maintaining healthy kidneys, but also informing and educating ones about the disease process that happens and things that we can do to mitigate that in our families and communities. So it just, all of that background just helps me today to continue to do that. But I love it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's such a specialty. I would not say you're just a dialysis nurse. It's such a specialty that so many of us don't have any idea how it works. It's like, it exists. It's existed for a very long time, but there are so few nurses that have that skill. So you are, one of a select few in the grand scheme of things. There are a lot, but if you look at nursing, I'm guessing you're just one of the select few that have gone down that path, because I can't tell you in my 25 plus years that I've even met a kidney specialist. I mean, I'm on the other side of it. I did a nephrectomy yesterday. So those, I'm on that end. I'm on the surgical side of it. But as far as the, understanding the process, the disease process, and the treatment and the prevention is something that we just don't are not familiar with. At least I'm not. So I appreciate those like you that can educate, and what a great resource you are in this legal community. So tell me, is a great transition here, because tell me how you um, started in the legal nurse side of this.
Well, I was with an organization that I really loved for about 10 years. I started as a staff nurse in that particular organization, and then I got up to management where I was managing about 100 plus patients. I had a whole team and a core team, and medical director and everything running a center. But I was doing that for so long, about 5 years. But there came a point, it's like one day, and it happened over a period of time, but there was a particular day that a light bulb went off in my head. And I recognized that I wanted to do more, but I didn't know what that looked like.
Mhm.
I knew that the things that I had learned, I knew that the experiences that I had could be used in so many other ways. And I found myself, although I loved what I was doing, I felt that I was boxed in. I felt capped off. I felt that no matter what I did, I still wasn't getting that fulfillment that I once had. And I recognized that I wasn't getting the fulfillment because I needed to expand, but I
Mhm.
was within an organization. And so you can only expand within the confines of that organization because they have their own agenda. And
Mhm.
so you have to respect that agenda and go along with what's there. But I felt like I wanted to do some things outside of the box, and I couldn't be held back.
Mhm.
So around the December of 2020, we were still mingling and dealing with COVID
Yep.
quite heavily.
Mhm.
I had always wanted to be a travel nurse too.
Mhm.
So my husband, of course, our children are grown at this point, and my husband said, I'm never going to be one to tell you not to pursue something that's in your heart. And he said, you have talked about this traveling for so long, and people were calling me and telling me about these
Mhm.
different ventures. And he was like, babe, you should just do it. You should just go for it. He said, this is the thing. If you try and you don't like it, hey, you can just say you pursued it. But if you never do it, you don't go for it, that'll be something that'll weigh on you. So you shouldn't let it weigh on you. And so I agreed with that. And I felt that, it was appropriate time. And I started to travel. And I thought that when I traveled, that would give me the fulfillment that I was looking for. It didn't happen. The fulfillment didn't happen, but the discovery did. The discovery did. My husband was my high school sweetheart, so we had never been apart. I'd never been apart from my babies. So I got to explore some things and embark on a journey now to figure out, hey, what do you want to do? And in this sense, what do you want to do for you? And it was an opportunity for me to delve into my own mind and heart and see, okay, I know I want to be a nurse. I don't want to give this up, but I want to do this different. So I used the travel time as an opportunity to deep dive into my inner person, work on some things. I connected with some amazing people that are now like sisters to me. They were also nurses and entrepreneurs in business. And they encouraged me to the ideas that I had in my mind to bring them out. And I want to say about 4 to 5 months into traveling, I realized that's what I was going to do. And when I made the decision, you know what? I always wanted to do law. I always wanted to help patients in a bigger way. I always wanted to take my expertise to another level. This is it. I can consult. But I'm not bound by consulting in one way. I can do clinical, I can do legal, I can do both. And I got a coach, and that she was the best person that I found, and she was awesome, and she's still my coach. And we worked it out, and I started my business. It was almost as if it was a no-brainer. And when I made that decision, it felt like a ton of bricks got lifted off. Things just started going up from there. And I started out with the clinical. And because I was being visible in the clinical space, people started finding me for the legal. I didn't even seek it out. People started finding me. And I didn't feel like it was coincidental because it's something that I always wanted to do. I remember looking at those legal nurse consulting pamphlets and things that would come in the mail when I was a new nurse. And the particular nurse on there.
And I remember the same ones. Exactly.
So I was like, I always wanted to delve into it. And so the opportunities started coming my way. So the clinical consulting business branched out. It just happened. But when I recognized the need, I sat down and I said, okay, I need to be prepared. And these are some things I want to do to better serve and to be a better resource. So then I made the decision to just full-fledged have two arms to the business.
I love that. That you listen to those voices that have always been there, that have said, a lot of us don't listen to it. That we say these things to ourselves over the years, and then, later on in life, sometimes we regret not doing those things, just like like with the traveling. I love the fact that he encouraged you to do that. It is one thing. I just had this conversation on a previous podcast. We talked about the whole traveling thing, and it is one thing, and I had said it was one thing that I regret not doing. But life happens, and it just didn't happen. So I love the fact that you took that into consideration, and you had support for that, and you tried it, and it wasn't what you probably expected for yourself, but it was something that you don't regret because it led you to the next thing. And we can say, I can say that there were things that led me to the next thing, so I don't really regret it all too much. But there are definitely things that we all regret not listening to, and I commend you for listening to the voices and doing those deep dives and hiring a coach and getting those that second, probably second pair of eyes on. We get so far in our head that having those second pair of eyes. um I'm a huge fan of coaches. I've hired them over time, and I also had the same conversation about hiring a coach. I hired a coach, a life coach, for my to get through my divorce, actually, because I just couldn't do it myself. I couldn't see the other side, and I needed those second pair of eyes because I was successful, and I had all this personal development work myself, but yet I still couldn't see myself in the future, and I needed someone to help see that with me. So essentially I'm a huge fan of a coach that can do that for you, and here you are, um, doing what you love, and all of those pieces of the puzzle have led up to where you're at today. So tell me a little bit more about your business now, in the fact that you say you have two arms in it. What does that look like?
Yeah. So if really quick too, the accountability piece
Mhm.
and how you talked about investing in yourself, that's really important. If you don't invest in yourself, you
Yep.
can't expect other people to invest in your business or even consider your services. So I want to commend you for that, because
Mm.
when you recognize somewhere that you need help and you're not, you're being realistic, that was something that I had to do in my business, being realistic. And so that helped
Right.
me to decide how to format my business. And so the two arms are the clinical consulting
Mhm.
and the legal consulting. So with the
Mhm.
clinical consulting, all of those years that I've had as a nephrology nurse have made me very well rounded. And when it comes to the direct care, leadership, management, compliance,
Mhm.
there are spaces where people still need that support.
Mm.
So, like a lot of the larger organizations, you know, depending on the size of the organization, if they're really big, they're going to have their own internal setup. If they're mid-size, they may even have their own internal setup. But some of the smaller franchises, they don't always have the infrastructure. They
Mhm.
have good people, they have good leaders, but they don't always have the infrastructure and the support that the bigger or the mid-sized organizations have. And so as a clinical consultant, I decided that I wanted to tailor my expertise to organizations that needed support like a bigger organization, but you just don't need all of the people. And so I serve as a consultant, an educator. I make sure that my clients are survey ready and compliant. I
Mhm.
make sure that their staff are educated. I develop educational systems for them. Onboard, they have an onboarding process now.
Mhm.
Um, Things that weren't in place prior to hiring a consultant are now in place. My clients can call me if
Mhm.
there are things that are going on. Like at one point, they wanted to add on an HHD program, and some things that they wanted to do would not have worked out in their best interest because of
Mhm.
the way that their staffing structure was set up. And so when I shared that feedback, they were already in the midst of going to proceed forward. And then it was like, wait a minute, that's some good
Mhm.
points. We're not going to proceed with that. And the
Yeah.
comment that the owner made was, this is the value of a consultant, someone that can be ground level when we need, but also looking 30,000 feet ahead and looking at the bigger
Right.
picture, pulling in that information that we need to guide us and be a part of the team. And so that is really what I like with the legal, with the clinical piece. I do their POCs, I help develop plans, I do site visits. Um, like a surveyor that I
Yeah.
pop up in centers. I inform the staff of things that we could do to improve. They give me
Mhm.
feedback about ideas that they have. So it's very cohesive and comprehensive, and we are a real good team. So I really enjoy the clinical piece, being able to help my clients
Right.
open new centers and give their patients really good care. And
Yeah.
then that just folds over into the legal piece. So
Sure.
also, in addition to nephrology nursing, I am a long-term care nurse too. I work in skilled
Mhm.
nursing facilities. I work with patients with dementia and Alzheimer's, and I do direct care and rehab centers. So that allows me to practice from a legal aspect with nephrology and the nursing home setting. So I've been able to meld the two quite often because
Mhm.
a lot of my clients, their dialysis spaces are inside skilled nursing facilities.
Sure.
So I'm constantly aware of what's
Yeah.
up to the speed with regulations and what
Right.
we should be doing. And it kind of helps everybody because I do health fairs for the skilled
Mhm.
facilities. I let them know things that can improve their
Yeah.
way of caring for the patients that are getting dialysis, and vice versa with the dialysis kidney care team and their interactions with the nursing home, so that we don't have loopholes and things where patients are falling through the crack or care is falling through the cracks. So
Right.
it's really evolved into something that is really cool. It's
Yeah.
cooler than I imagined it. It's
Yeah.
really great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's going really well. This is my
Yeah.
third year.
That's amazing. I love that. Oh, and what a great resource you are for us, those of us that need someone. I mean, there's always a need for someone like you. And the fact that you went out on a limb and just listened to yourself and decided you're going to go into business for yourself and to in order to expand. And like you said, I always love that, you broke through your ceiling, right? Your ceiling was where you were at and you decided to break through it. And then on the other side, it turned out to be, even better than you expected. So, um, it's such a great story. And I'm really happy for all of your success. And I'm really excited about having you as a resource. Um, because, you know, we all have heard stories or have had cases that come across um, that have to do with skilled nursing or dialysis patients or you name it, and having someone like you would be really helpful to refer to. Um, Okay, so would you say that your both businesses are kind of equally keep you busy, or is the clinical side? I mean, it sounds like the clinical side is um quite a large task, you know? No.
It's systems.
Ah, yes.
And that's the value of a coach. See,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm not running ragged.
Right.
I'm not running
Mhm.
ragged. I go to my clinics. It's very strategic.
Yeah.
I have a system for evaluating their clinicals. They get
Mhm.
reports monthly about the status of their clinics. I look at everything behind the scenes. I do the site visits, the pop ups, and give the owners a bird's eye view of, hey, at any given point, this is what's going on. But it's not in a punitive way because they're not built like traditional outpatient facilities where you have an
Mhm.
administrator on site. You have your nurses and your technicians and maybe a unit secretary doing the day to day work.
Right.
And so having a consultant that can go in and be a resource for the staff, but also let leadership know, hey, these are some things we could work on, or these are the things that are really good when they're
Yeah.
not physically able to be there, has been something that my clients have really appreciated. And so I do have a system for that. It's not exhausting and it's very flexible because I make the schedule the way I need to make it to accommodate my client.
Mhm.
And they're very they're very easy to work with because they know that I want to deliver, so they don't have to
Right.
worry about something falling through the cracks.
Right.
And then that creates, because I have the systems in place for that, with how I have things. Some things are automated, but I have an assistant that helps me, and because I have those things in place, it creates time that I can get cases,
Yeah.
and sometimes I get cases impromptu, but I
Right.
have the time
Right.
because I have the systems in place where I am streamlined, and typically every day I'm home at 5.
Right. That's
You
great.
know, that I
Yeah.
mean, that I didn't do that as an administrator. I might be working an 18
Sure.
hour
Oh yeah.
covering a call out or something like that. But now it's much more rewarding. You know,
Hmm.
business is business. I'm not going to say every single day it's like,
Sure.
oh, this is fairy tale.
Sure.
But I'm picking my heart. And I tell you
Hmm.
one thing, it's very rewarding when you can wake up and build your own business.
Hmm.
And even if it's a small win, that's my win. That's your
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
And you're doing it for something that you have in your heart to create. And
Right.
that's the joy of all of this. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to more work.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I do have a nice balance, and I do appreciate a lot of my work comes word of mouth now.
Hmm.
Like sometimes I'll get like people put something about kidney care, and it'll be like 5 or 6 nurses tagging me. And sometimes it might not even be a nurse that I've met, but
Yeah.
maybe they heard something. So
Oh yeah.
that means a
Yeah.
lot to
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, like I said, I think it's a skill that most of us, obviously, most of us don't have, and nor do we know of any that have it. So you've got this, um, eh, it doesn't surprise me that you get word of mouth, and that's the best way to build a business, is word of mouth. So it shows the type of person you are. It shows that you have these skills that not many people have, and that you are a wonderful resource that people are excited to share with others. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you get a lot of word of mouth. What kind of advice would you give someone that, let's just say, they're currently in your shoes 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago? What would you tell them on how to approach, like the next step? Oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. It sounds like exactly what I want to have. I don't know where to start. What would you tell them?
well, the first thing you have to do is figure out what you enjoy.
Mhm.
So when it comes to the consulting with the clinical piece, I could very well do a lot of things with that, given my background in nephrology. But if you're doing everything and serving everybody, you're not going to serve anybody.
Mhm.
So you have to hone down and focus in on what is it that you're really good at? What problems can you solve? What area are you strong in? And how can you support your client in closing those gaps? Once I recognize, hey, compliance is my jam,
Mm.
policies and procedures are my jam, I know I'm in my
Mhm.
sleep.
Mhm.
Direct care, I never stopped doing direct care. So when it comes to what's relevant, what's current, I know it.
Right.
When I started thinking about those things, that's how I frame my business. I do the things that I'm good at, and the things that I need support with, I take classes, I make connections,
Mhm.
meaningful connections. And I want
Mhm.
to put an emphasis on meaningful connections, because the connection should not be just for your own gain. The connection should be a mutual thing. When you're trying to connect with an individual, it should be along the lines of, oh, this is a person I would like to work with. This is a person I think I can learn from. But also, too, how can I support this person? How can I help their business?
Right.
That right there, I think, has opened a lot of doors for me,
Yeah.
because I'm not quick when somebody calls me. And I'm not saying that anybody has to do this in particular, but everything is not about an invoice with me. If
Mhm.
somebody genuinely needs help and
Mhm.
they're in a pinch, they
Mhm.
might have just found me on LinkedIn and they looking at a case, and they're in a pinch, I will take that time to
Yeah.
build that connection, because
Mhm.
to me, that's more valuable. That person getting help and that client getting that issue resolved, in my opinion, is more valuable. So if you can implement those things and step outside the box, don't talk yourself out of doing something that's going to propel you forward, that
Right.
will really get you in the right direction. And also, when you're looking at your connections and when you're looking at investing and getting any kind of coaches or whatever, really do your research before spending money in spaces that you might not have really gotten the full information on. It's better to save the heartache and money to do the research up front, and even make connections with people and ask them what their advice could be. And I've had a lot of valuable advice from more nurses than I can count on my hands and my toes, about what I can do in
Yeah.
this legal space. And so
Yeah.
I think that's really a good way to have a
Yeah,
solid
I love
foundation.
all of that advice. I totally agree with. I was part of a networking group, and their theme was givers gain. And so essentially that's what you're saying as well, is that your first inclination in a meaningful connection is giving. You know, the more you give, the more you get back without the intention of receiving. It's giving and knowing that it will come back tenfold. I know that for me, that's a philosophy that I've always lived by, and it's always shown that back to me. It's as much as I can give. I know that at some point I will be blessed, for that. And also, these meaningful connections go further than business.
Yeah.
I can say that for myself and anybody who's I have connected with over the last at least 15 years. They mean more to me than any business I was in at the time. If it's not this one, it's a previous one. The connections mean more than the business. And that's really, I mean, we're humans, and humans connect, and that fills a bucket that is, I think, necessary. So everybody wins when we set up for those meaningful connections, I think. And so I'm really glad that you touched on that. I think that that's actually a running theme that comes through this podcast. And I mean, it may be because um, it's something that I see, and those are the people that I want to talk to on this podcast, are those that see value in those meaningful connections, and it always comes up. So I am so grateful that it does come up, because I think that it goes a long way. Um, I appreciate you sharing all of your advice. It's so wonderful to get to know you, and I feel blessed to know you now. And do you have any last little piece of advice for those that are listening? And where can we find you? I know that that will be in the show notes, but I would love for you to share that with the community.
Well, first, I want to say thank you to you as well. Just having a safe space as nurses where we can come and, learn, because we're always learning from each other and supporting each other. I felt that this was a good place to come, and so we can help each other. So thank you for
Mhm.
having me here. I'm pretty sure there are people that have way more experience than me, but when we all pitch in together and
Yeah,
share the things that help us propel forward, we can all continue to roll right along and do great. And so that was just my goal. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. So if you're looking for me on LinkedIn, I'm under Jameisha Nicole Rogers. That's my professional business page. And then I also have my business page, Nephrology Nurse Leadership Network, where it's just some different tips and things about, compliance, kidney care, so on and so forth there. But really, LinkedIn is one of the better places to find me. If you have any questions or anything, I'm very responsive, and I'm here for anyone that needs help or has any questions.
great. Perfect. Thank you. And I will, again, put those in the show notes. And you are going to be a wonderful resource to everyone. And one last thing, it doesn't, the point of this podcast really is not how much you know or how much of an expert you are. It's really everybody has something to share, and that's the joy of it, is that we all have something to share and everybody deserves a voice and to be heard and to be seen and to connect. And so I'm really glad that I've had you on here. And again, I'm blessed to know you now. And I look forward to seeing all of your success and cheering you on and being one of those ones that is going to tag you, for sure. You're going to be top
And
of mind.
likewise.
So
And likewise, this is awesome. I'm super excited. I'm in a couple of groups on there, but I think one of the groups that we're in together has been very informative and positive, and that's where I found some other people that had been on the podcast. It's great. I hope that you continue to do this because it's just what we need, a breath of fresh air and a place where we can just come and, not just talk, but network and learn as well, some things that we might not have given any thought. So I really do appreciate this once again.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us in this fun conversation on the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and empowering as I always do. And I hope that you share this episode with your friends. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you could leave us a review or comment, as I would love to share them in the future episodes. Or hop on over into my DMs and send me a quick message. I can be found on Instagram at anna.b.gray, on my website at limitlesslnc.com, and over on LinkedIn at anna.gray. And I want you to remember, you are limitless. Until next time.